What a day in the One Piece community, and what a day for the Admiral agenda. I shouldn't even say Admiral agenda because this is the agenda of anybody with any common sense, okay? So today, huge confirmation if you did not know already, SBS 110, these are the questions Oda asks every time a volume releases. He confirmed that Kizaru is the one that gave Luffy food when Luffy was down, incapacitated after the fight with Kizaru, and he couldn't protect himself with Saturn. His durability was literally in the depths of hell. He took internal damage from a punch from Frankie when he's supposed to be impervious to blunt force damage. Mind you, Frankie without hockey. Kizaru is the one that fed him. You got clear indications of this in the actual chapter, as you saw Kizaru's ramen bowl that he was eating with in the beginning of the arc, right next to Luffy. You also seen that Kizaru was on the ground, looking at Bonnie in trouble, looking at Sentomaru in trouble on this page. Then Luffy gets food. You see it cuts back to Kizaru, who has dots over his head, and he's moved into a completely new position. It was very clear to anybody with any media literacy. I talked about this a little bit on my TikTok. But now it's great to see that Oda has absolutely confirmed it. And this proves multiple things. It proves, one, that he perception blitzed the fuck out of everybody in the vicinity. Sanji, Frankie, the Gorosei member, Saturn. Two, he could have killed Luffy literally right here, right now. I already talked about his durability being terrible in this moment, and he had the wherewithal to go over there. This is, mind you, seconds later. Because I told you in my Kizaru vs. Luffy video, full fight analysis, well documented. You can go check this out if you want the full, uninterrupted scaling breakdown of the entire fight. We go through every single thing in that video. The flashback makes it seem like a ton of time has passed, but there's not, because you see that Bonnie was grabbed by Saturn. They still hadn't shot by the time the flashback ended, and now we know that Kizaru was already up and moving by that time. That's just that simple, and he had the speed to move there, go get the food. It's an insane feat. It's an insane feat any way you slice it. And I just want to like bring up some of these comments that I thought were funny on Twitter. It's just like the Yon Cope going around, bro. So you had Worstgen reporting that Kizaru gave Luffy the food. He had somebody say, "It's not Kizaru, bro." Worstgen's like, "It is. Frankie and Sanji couldn't move because it's Saturn. Kizaru wouldn't give his enemy food no matter what. Read the new SBS. Oda kinda hinted at it. Sanji also speed of light. If not, he would just straight out say it. But Sanji couldn't move, man. Don't you understand this? Sanji and Frankie couldn't move because of Saturn's powers." And then you got the guy, he's a dumbass. But that's what you see. Like, you see this level of argumentation. Like, Sanji could not move. Frankie could not move. Sentomaru was tied up. The only other people mentioned in this, and Oda said speed of light multiple times. He was paralyzed by Saturn. Oda set this up beautifully to make it so it's very clear the only person that was capable of moving was Kizaru. That's the point. And the only person capable of moving that fast, especially. So you have that situation, right? And you also have shit like this. Like, you have people that think like, this guy, I think, you know, he's a troll because, you know, he's come out and said like, oh, he kind of conceded the Shiryu thing after, you know, Blackbeard's statement about Garp, but, you know, he's running his agenda, whatever the case, it's funny. But he's like the only two characters who can canonically move invisible when they move. Wrong. It's actually just based on the opposing person's perception. It's been stated numerous times. Bluno went invisible against fucking Luffy. He was invisible with the shave technique. Anybody that can use shave can move invisible based on the person they're fighting. Fucking Luffy stated to have vanished in Whole Cake Island. Like, there's multiple instances of this, and I can go on and on with them. It's just based on the person they're fighting. The only difference with Sanji was that Sanji held it. It's a stamina thing at best, where it's like he just maintained that level of speed for a prolonged period because it was out of necessity. Queen even states beforehand, this is the dumbest thing Sanji could have done, because the moment he stops, he's gonna be tapped on stamina. He's gonna be done. That's why Sanji collapses after their fight. It's not optimal to do, but he had to do it because he didn't know where Queen was, because Queen's invisibility. It was the only way to even the odds. And honestly, not gonna get into all the Sanji shit, but he was kind of saved by the fact that Queen fucked up and went for the girl with the mouse, because that's how Sanji figured out where he was. With that said, one more for you is this guy. This shit encapsulated everything I was thinking perfectly. Everything everybody should be thinking. So after their fight, while Luffy was looking like this, Kizaru recovered, got up, blitzed the Gorosei, Frankie, Sanji, Bonnie, and everyone, fetched and delivered food to Luffy, all while being mentally nerfed. Noticed. Then in the comments, have somebody saying, oh, Luffy's still stronger or something like that, because people are saying this like with no basis whatsoever. My whole video just completely disproves this. He's like, Kizaru could have killed Luffy right here. Instead of blitzing half the island for him, it's GG. It's over, bro. Stop hurting yourself. The guy said, yet he couldn't. This grassy guy says, yet he didn't. It's awesome, bro, because you're seeing that based on like the like ratio. Usually, like, you'd have like all people liking the Luffy side, and I'm not like, you know, appealing to popularity, but it's interesting to see, and I like seeing the fact that people are waking up to this, and it's beautiful to see that it's like, it's so obvious. If you're going against Kizaru at this moment, you're literally in denial straight up being disingenuous and lying, or need to go get your IQ check stat, because it's indisputable at this point. Oda reinforced this multiple times. That's why he gave you a color-coded fucking thing calling out people's reading comprehension and egghead. He made sure to give Kizaru the scene emphasizing the mental nerf. He made sure that there was no fucking physical wounds on his body and gave him a direct Japanese phrase talking about mentally wounded because killing his best friend. He just keeps coming back and bringing this shit up. So it's great to see that everything we were talking about months and months ago aged perfectly. They called us delusional. They said we were theorizing. No, it was just fucking that obvious. We shouldn't even need Oda to come out and say something like this to know it, right? Because it was so clear. But I'm glad to see it nonetheless. And for anybody with this like absolute copium explanation, thinking that Kizaru did it because Luffy's stronger than him and he couldn't take on the Gorosei himself, are you out of your mind? Are you even registering what you're thinking, despite the fact that like all the scaling like proves Kizaru's above, as I documented in my video? He was sent there to be Saturn's bodyguard, to protect him. Saturn wasn't even supposed to fight. With that said, he's perception blitzing the shit out of Saturn. Saturn didn't even realize the guy got up. He got all this food, took it back, all before Saturn could do anything. In the same vein, he could grab all the people he wants to save in that time frame if he really wanted to. He cannot go against Saturn because that's his fucking job. He obviously wants to keep his job. His confliction is just that. He doesn't know what the right thing to do is. On one hand, he does believe that Vegapunk has committed these crimes. He does believe that Vegapunk should reap what he sows. But on the other hand, it's his best friend and he doesn't truly want to see this. That's why you see him trying to help without actively helping directly, without actively fighting Saturn and actively saving them. He's trying to like, hey, get the fuck back up, Luffy. You need to do better to protect this guy. That's why you see this consistently. That's why you see him miss the shot on the Vegatank when he can shoot a key at Marineford with pinpoint accuracy and say, oopsie daisy. That's why you see all these things. He's trying to not have to do it. He's trying to have Luffy protected, but there's just nothing more he can do. And that's why he says it's over when Saturn gets hit by Kuma, because at that point, the hands have been put on the Gorosei member. It's now gone to complete shit. There's only a limited amount of time where Saturn's going to buy him being down, because obviously it was clearly pretend. Saturn even was questioning it. He even wasn't really fully buying. He's like, this is rather sluggish work on your hands, but at least, you know, it's possible that that's how you're down, right? From you're fighting a Yonko at least. But there's only a limited amount of time where that's going to be fucking accepted. You have to understand this. And then the only time he stays down is when the mission is complete, when Vegapunk is taken out. So these are things that he cannot do. You have to understand that that's the definition of why it's confliction, because on one hand it's his job and his duty, and on the other hand it's his best friend. He's being pulled by the heartstrings. He doesn't know what the fuck to do. With that said, we did get a couple other interesting SBS questions regarding Admirals. So we got one talking about Fujitora and Green Bull's backstories, and I'll read it out to you guys now. The reader said, Odachi, please tell us the former occupations of Fujitora and Green Bull before they became Marine Admirals. Oda says, all right, just as they became the ones in charge of the defense affiliated nations to the world government through the system called the World Military Draft. These two were handpicked by the Marines. Aramaki hails from the South Blue. He was a police officer from the Taya Kingdom and caused a great incident involving a woman. Because of this, he got thrown into prison. His reputation of possessing extraordinary strength reached the government, and he got drafted into the Marines and immediately got a special promotion to Admiral. Oda's calling him extraordinarily powerful. People were talking about the reason he was thrown into prison. I've seen people saying some vile things about him, throwing some accusations his way. I don't know the validity of what this guy's saying. Going off the basis that all these guys, the Admirals that is, are based off Oda's favorite actors, and Green Bull is one of them. This guy says the character Green Bull is inspired by killed 100 men because they kidnapped his girl. Green Bull did not do anything wrong. There's obviously something going on with Green Bull and a woman. This was hinted at when he was first revealed in the manga. We'll obviously get this backstory in the series, I'm assuming at some point, and it's gonna cook just like all Oda's backstories do. So I can't wait to see that. As far as Fujitora, Isho hails from the West Blue. He incurred losses on a gambling house in Twin Snake Island, and the place he was working as a bodyguard was bought by the world government with a large sum of money. Isho is a former defense military chief in the Blue Kingdom that once existed in the Grand Line. The Blue Kingdom was destroyed because of the war, and he became a significant war criminal. The world government will eventually be made aware of this. So apparently they did not know that Fuji is a war criminal. This is very interesting. And they also don't talk about how he was drafted, how they recognize his strength. None of this is mentioned here. This kind of leads you to believe more so into those theories that maybe it was just a personal choice from Akainu, that Akainu personally knew about Fuji and brought him in for this position. So we'll see about all that. I can't wait for Fujitori's backstory. Probably going to be one of Oda's greatest meals. We still have to find out how and why he blinded himself, what went into all that, and the war criminal thing is probably for a just cause, but we'll have to see, of course. But I wanted to report to you guys that information. We have a ton of cool info that's coming down the line, and there's hints to some Aokiji hype in his new Viver card that should be coming out in a few days. So I'll be covering that if it's worthwhile. We also have 10 super important questions aside from the SBS that Oda's going to be answering in the coming days as well. So keep it locked here, subscribe, drop a like on the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.